Sally arrived late for the lesson and walked behind Kath to get to her allocated place. Her body language suggested that she was upset and wanted her entrance to be as unobtrusive as possible. Kath asked her to explain where she had been. With her head down, Sally continued to make her way to the seat. Kirsty immediately moved so that Sally could sit in her usual place. Kath's insistence that Sally looked at her when she spoke to her seemed to increase her distress.
Look at me when I'm talking to you.
While Sally was following Kath's instruction to collect her late slip, Kath criticised her again, this time about not following the routine for late arrival.
And come and sign a late slip wherever they are. You of all people should know the routine by now. You're always late.
The slips were not easily accessible, so it was difficult for Sally to do as Kath asked. Kath implied that maybe Sally should not have bothered to come to the lesson at all.
And even when you're here, you never make a useful contribution.
Throughout all this, Sally did as Kath asked, but avoided eye contact with her. Despite the fact that Sally was clearly upset, Kath persisted in asking her to explain the reason for her lateness.
I think you owe us all an explanation. Why are you late?
The class appeared to know something about Sally's circumstances and seemed to empathise with the difficulties she was having. They were clearly disturbed by the unsympathetic way in which they perceived Kath was treating Sally.
Just leave her alone. What was that, Jason?
Kath interpreted this interruption as a challenge to her authority and requested that he should repeat what he had said, even though she must have heard it the first time. This, together with her somewhat threatening look, caused Jason to back down. Anita tried to defend Sally by explaining to Kath, as confidentially as she could with the whole class listening, a possible reason for Sally's lateness.
Please, miss.
What, Anita?
I think Sally's a bit upset. She's been having problems at home.
Kath seemed to see this as another challenge to her authority, and again responded sarcastically.
Has someone appointed you class shop steward or something?
Indicating to Anita that how she managed the class was none of her business. Kath sent Sally to her seat, reprimanding her for disrupting the class, and then issued a reminder to the class, which suggested that Sally was late because she felt like it.
I will not accept people wandering in and out of my classroom when they feel like it.
By now, the class were muttering their disapproval. Using an angry tone, Kath told them to settle down. Anita, who was quietly trying to reassure Sally, was silenced by another sarcastic comment.
And if Mother Teresa could postpone her ministrations until after the class?
The lesson eventually got back on track, but pupils now looked despondent, and risking further displeasure, Anita continued to communicate discreetly with Sally.
Visualising an equilateral triangle.
I know that it's really annoying to have pupils arriving late for a lesson, and I do want staff to use positive strategies that encourage better attendance and punctuality. We've included our ideas on this in our policy on attendance. But looking at Kath's approach, Sally is much more likely to stay away from a future lesson when she can't avoid being late.
Where have you been?
There will always be some occasions when pupils can't help being late.
Look at me when I'm talking to you. Did I say you could sit down? Quiet, the rest of you. Well? No. So, up you get and come and sign a late slip wherever they are. You of all people should know the routine.
The school routine, coming in, completing a late slip and sitting down in an allocated seat, is designed to minimise interruptions to learning caused by latecomers. It allows the teacher to follow up the lateness with the pupil at a more convenient time, as necessary. Sally entered the classroom in a way that suggested she wanted as little fuss as possible. It may be that, on this occasion, she did not follow the agreed routine for late arrivals because the late slips were not available. To follow the routine, Sally would have had to interrupt Kath to ask for a slip. We don't expect pupils to explain during the lesson why they are late, yet Kath criticised Sally because she did not do this.
I think you owe us all an explanation. Why are you late? Just leave her alone.
Sally had missed the beginning of the lesson, but making an issue of this meant that the rest of the class lost valuable time too.
What, Anita?
Kath seems to make examples of pupils who disobey her and uses this as part of her approach to managing pupils' behaviour.
Sally, you've caused quite enough disruption already. Now go and sit down. And remember, all of you, I will not accept people wandering in and out of my classroom when they feel like it.
We're keen to promote pupils' participation and peer support, and I think pupils are good at helping each other settle where lateness is a problem. Kath might consider how peer support can be utilised in her lessons so that she can focus on her teaching. Although it was Sally who arrived late, most disruption to learning for the class was caused by the way Kath responded to her. I'm concerned that Kath chooses not to follow agreed policies, such as this one on late arrivals, because this undermines our attempt to implement a consistent approach to promoting and reinforcing positive behaviour across the school. Kath seems to believe that whatever strategies staff have agreed, her own approaches are more successful. This can make life difficult for colleagues and pupils alike. Ultimately, her views on managing behaviour could become a powerful negative influence on the school community. As a start, I will ask heads of department to review with staff how well our approach to managing late arrivals is working across the school. I will ask Mrs. Rennick to provide the data we have on attendance and punctuality in lessons to support this discussion.
Where have you been?
Perhaps we need to consider further how we are supporting parents in promoting punctuality.
Look at me when I'm talking to you.
An aspect of Kath's response to Sally that concerns me a great deal is her use of comments that appear to be designed to hurt or intimidate. Our anti-bullying policy is very clear, and I need all my staff to model the values and principles that we are trying to promote.
I think you owe us all an explanation why you're late. Where have you been? Where do you think you're going?
There are many reasons for pupils' late arrival to lessons, and it is often possible to judge the nature of the lateness from the attitude and demeanour of the pupil. We don't know exactly why Sally was late for this lesson, but it was obvious she was upset. Instead of following the planned routine for dealing with such a situation, Kath used the interruption as an excuse for berating the class.
And remember, all of you, I will not accept people wandering in and out of my classroom when they feel like it.
An obvious consequence of this was loss of learning time for all. There are a variety of strategies that staff can use to ensure that late arriving pupils settle quickly into the lesson. Strategies such as writing the lesson objectives on the board, appointing a learning buddy to help latecomers catch up, the teacher getting to the pupil as soon as possible once class is working, providing lesson notes for pupils or posting them on the school intranet can all help minimise disruption and maintain the pace of the lesson. Kath needs to explore non-confrontational ways of managing interruptions so that the flow and pace of the lesson is maintained. Using the agreed routine for latecomers will help ensure that her lessons run more smoothly and make her feel more in control. It is clear from pupils' reactions in this lesson that Kath's demeanour and aggressive language have a negative influence on the learning climate. By the time the lesson got back on track, class morale was low. This class was remarkably patient with Kath. Perhaps because pupils know her quite well and know that she is not always so aggressive, they put it down to her having a particularly bad day.
Right! Settle down, all of you! Now!